Well, good morning. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. We're on one of the hottest days of the year so far. Yesterday was reaching about 31, 32 outside, and I think today's scheduled for much the same. It's about 7:15 in the morning, so the sun's quite low in the sky, and it's really quite pleasant outside, being a sort of a typical, I think about 68, 20, something like that. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is infrared. Quite a few of you have probably followed people like Thomas Heaton and various other people that have experimented with infrared. And I was inspired by watching one of Thomas's videos a few weeks ago. And my previous experiences with infrared were not very good. And the reasons for that were that what I used in the past was an infrared filter like this one, 720 nanometers to be exact. And if you actually hold it up to your eye, it's really very similar to at least a 6-stop ND filter in terms of the amount of light it blocks. The idea with one of these is it's a screw-on filter, so it typically fits my 28-200 Tamron lens on this A7R4. But the problem with it is, I found in the past, try and screw that on without breaking anything. Oh, it's already got the magnetic filter holder on, that's no good. I'll have to take that off first. But, as I was saying, the problem with this is that with this filter on the front of the camera, and bearing in mind it's quite bright light outside, and I'll spin you around to show you out through the patio door. So as you can see out through the patio door there, it's full sunlight, and although the sun's low in the sky, that's pretty bright. And with this filter on the front of the camera, with the camera turned on, it's showing, as I say, f8 ISO 100, showing me over a 30th of a second exposure time, which means that's going to be quite a long exposure. So any motion is just going to be blurred of any sort. Even with no wind, there'll still be enough motion over 30 seconds for leaves and things to actually come out all blurred. Not the desired intention. So, much along the lines of what Mr. Heaton did, I bought another body. And if I just take that lens off and show you what this is. This is an infrared converted Alpha 5000, which I picked up for just around £250. It's previously converted, so what that means is the sensor in here normally has an infrared plate, glass plate in front of it, which they take off carefully and then recalibrate the camera so the focus system works on the light that it's now able to see. And it's a perfectly usable 20 megapixel camera, but it's completely converted to infrared. So as I was saying, this is a 20 megapixel camera. It's quite outdated, and you wouldn't buy one of these to use for normal photography necessarily now. Because it's been superseded by various other models. It has got a tilty flippy up screen, which is in some cases useful for vlogging, but I'm not using it for that purpose. So in comparison to the A7R4 with an infrared filter in front, pointing this camera, and I'll set that at a similar focal length. This is the 12 to 24 Sony full frame zoom lens, which on this camera is about 18 to 35. So I've set it at about 21mm, which is probably roughly the same thing as 28mm on the other Sony. And that's giving me at ISO 100 and f8 a 25th of a second pointing out through the door, which is clearly a lot better than over 30 seconds. So I can now take photographs at a reasonable shutter speed in daylight with this lens on, and lo and behold, I don't have the problem that the infrared filter gives me actually placed on the A7R4. So come with me, I'm going to go up to Oldbury Hill now, which is one of my favourite places. This would not normally be the sort of conditions you would photograph in because it's bright sunlight, But that's where these infrared cameras, as you've probably seen if you've watched any of Thomas's videos, really do shine. So I'm going to go up there and I'm going to see what we can get. So come along with me, and the next thing you'll see is we'll be getting out of the car at Oldbury and I'll be talking you through what it is I'm doing. So I'm quite excited. I've taken quite a few pictures with this camera already, and I'll put up a couple now so you can sort of get a feel for what it can do. Woodland photography, normally you don't have sky, and it's a no-no pretty much, because it introduces bright spots at the top of the picture which normally make your eye move out of the frame, and it just spoils it. So it's very, very difficult to use anything with sky in from a point of view of photography in woodland. But we're going to woodland, and my point about sky is, to an infrared camera the sky is virtually black, and foliage is virtually white. So it's almost an odd combination. You're not used to seeing images like this, but if there's any cloud in the sky, which unfortunately today there doesn't look to be more than the odd wispy bit, anything in the way of cloud in the sky is very dramatic in infrared, because the white of the clouds is white, the black of the sky, because of the infrared seeing it as that, makes for really quite interesting skies, even when to the human eye and the visible light we're taking, the sky looks mediocre to uninteresting. With these things, it looks completely different. So I'm going to grab a charged battery, because this one's only showing me about 58%. And I think I've got a second one of Sarah's RX10. It takes the same battery as an RX10. So I'll nick that if she doesn't notice, and let's go and see what we can do with this. I think it's going to be quite interesting. Well, I'll be honest, I know it's going to be quite interesting because I've used this camera now for about 2 weeks. I did make a previous vlog about it, and I only took this camera with me, but I found vlogging with it, although doable, made me look a little bit odd. And I didn't have a second microphone, so the audio quality just wasn't there as well. So I didn't really use that footage. I might put some of the B-roll from that particular video in this video. I haven't decided yet. I'll wait till we get home and see what happens. Anyway, join me in a minute when we get to Oldbury. Well, I don't mind admitting that takes it out of you, a 1 in 3 hill, and having to do it twice virtually, because I have to keep coming back to pick you guys up. It's not just me disappearing off into the distance. Every time I do that, I've got to come back and collect the camera. Oh well, it's not too unpleasant up here. I think it's about, the car was recording about 24 degrees, and it's nice and cool inside amongst all these beautiful trees. So I'm walking along a place that, for those of you that have followed the channel some time, will probably recognise if I spin you around. Oh, pardon me, out of breath. It's not a good thing to have a bad knee, then try to climb a steep hill. And isn't this glorious? The top of Oldbury Hill. And this is a tree that's certainly featured in one of my videos in the past, and has this track into the distance along here, which leads along the top of the ridge here. I've been up here many times, especially during lockdown, and this is the first time I've been up here in 2022. And has it changed? A bit of new growth, but basically no, it's still the same lovely place to be. And given it's a Sunday morning and it's approximately 8:30 now, I haven't seen anybody. There's normally quite a lot of dog walkers up here, but not today. So I'm going to find a particular little grove of trees, which I don't know how it'll work in infrared. We'll have to see. So it's about 150 yards further along. I'll get there. Whoops, mind the tree roots. And let's see how we get on. Well, I've set up for my first shot. I'm not sure it's necessarily going to work particularly well in infrared. What I've got in front of the camera, I've got the 12-24, which on this APS-C body with a 1.6 crop factor is about 18 to 35-ish, something like that. And I've got it at about 16, 15 mil, which would be about 22. And I've got some really nice ferns presenting in front. So I'm going to take this shot. Basically, there's two ferns, and there's also, I can point you on, let me pick the camera up and show you what it is I'm looking at. What I'm hoping to do is include these two large ferns, and also, spinning you round, as you can see in front of the camera, there's two really large ferns here and here, and then there's a tree trunk going off up here. And in infrared, tree trunks appear dark. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the back of this camera, but the ferns are white and the tree trunk's quite black there. So I'm going to take that shot, and that's not really the shot I was really hoping for, but let's just go to f14 to get most of that in. And we've got 1/10 of a second. And as I was saying earlier, if I had an infrared filter on my other camera, that would probably end up being a sort of 2-minute exposure at f14 or even longer, and not ideal at all. So let's take that one shot. Oh, didn't have a timer on. Let's just put a 2-second timer on, just to pay lip service to the fact that we've got 1/10 of a second shutter speed. As I say, I'll put that shot up in a moment. It's not the one I was talking about as I was walking up here. That's I'm going to continue along the track till I get to that location, but it just stood out that these two beautiful ferns were presenting themselves face on to me. Not sure how it'll work, we'll have to see. Catch you in a minute. Well, I think I've just discovered something, and that is, when I've looked at all of Thomas Heaton's pictures, the thing I notice about them is he always takes them in broad daylight. He's outside photographing things that have been heavily or massively lit by the sun. And I'm in this wood, and as you can see around me, it's all mottled sun, there isn't a lot. Yes, as I was saying, we're in mottled sunlight here, and what I'm thinking is actually the most striking images where all the foliage actually is white is because it's directly being impacted by the sun, and the sun's reflecting the infrared element from the leaves, and consequently they appear white. In here they don't appear as white and as vibrant as they do in the open. So on the way back I pass a piece of what I think is Capability Brown's land. It's a piece of land owned by the Arabs, own Fairlawns estate, and that particular piece of ground has got a nice rolling hill with a few really seriously well-established deciduous trees on it, and at this time of day that will be in bright sunlight, and it would be exactly the thing you wouldn't normally take a picture of because it won't look right, all the highlights would be blown out in ordinary light. So I'll put up the pictures I've taken here, and I think you'll see from them, I'm guessing that the effect I'm wanting isn't as obvious in here as it will be, I hope, when I take pictures of trees in broad daylight in the open. So I'll pack up here, we'll jump back in the car and we'll go back over towards Plaxtall, which is where Fairlawns estate is, and I'll stop at the side of the road and I'll take a picture there. I might not vlog that because I'm at the side of the road Dog's in the car. He doesn't like being in the car on his own for any length of time, so I'll have to just do a run and gun. But hopefully when I've taken that shot, I'll be able to talk you through it when I post-process it. So let's see how that goes. And experimenting in infrared. It's a way of getting out during the daytime in the summer when you wouldn't normally think of doing it. So I'm hoping some of these shots will work. I don't know, but let's see. See you in a bit.